Hello, and welcome to the 34th video in my Punishing Graven lore series. Today we'll cover Chapter 4 of the Floating Record Stories, the Floating Reverie. While focusing on humanity, the Ascendants, and the virus, it's easy to overlook another faction working behind the scenes in secret, the Machines. Nanami and the Church of Machina continue to gather their allies, and with Cervantes returning to the church, Nanami decides to awaken another comrade, Hanying. Now with her new awakening, Hanying will discover what it means to have a heart, and embark on a journey to figure out who she truly is. Now without any further delay, Floating Record Chapter 4, The Floating Reverie. Following the Machine's retreat from Constellia, it's business as usual within the church. Hikma with her library, Cervantes with his artist studio, and Xavier, whose room serves as the church's R&D department, as well as the location of their sleeping comrade. In the early days of the church's founding, Gear, the first chariot, brought a Kowloong mechanoid back from an expedition. In the passing years, she has slept below the church, living within a constant repeating dream. And in one of these dreams, something quite different happens. She is met by an unfamiliar and eccentric young girl, and thanks to Nanami's intervention, Hanying has finally been reactivated. Surrounded by the other members of the church, Hanying exits her sleep pod, insisting on making her way back to Kowloong. But with a little convincing from the other members, she decides to stay with the church, at least until she receives repairs to her frame. Arcana explains to her the purpose behind the church, the heart, soul, and sense of self mechanoids acquire upon their awakening, and the identity of the silver-haired girl. In the days following, she finds it harder to adjust than not, due to her always having been around humans. As another mechanoid who spent his time living amongst humans, she finds comfort in Cervantes, in his actions and mannerisms. In her dream, she relived a lifetime's worth of memories with a young girl named Yo-Yo, Pulao's former name. He brings up the circumstances of Hanying's self-deactivation, but unlike many machines before her, Hanying made this choice to protect another, and with this new information, he reclassifies her act to that of self-sacrifice, a behavior very uncommon for machines. After Nanami left the church, she mentioned that Hanying had already shown signs of awakening before her intervention, and Cervantes thinks that sacrifice was an indication of the heart that took root inside of her. But even with this being the case, what exactly is this heart? And how can she be so sure she has one if she can't understand what it truly is? She struggles to understand all these brand new concepts, but the key to all of it are her feelings for Pulao. Suddenly, Cervantes brings up another question. Then what? What will she do after they finally reunite? And for the first time in her life, she doesn't know what comes next. Later on, Arcana gathers the members of the church and offers a tarot card to Hanying, her invitation to have her join the church as their newest comrade. With this, she will don a new name, life, and set of responsibilities, but she has yet to complete her job as Hanying, and must handle the business she left in Kowloong before accepting any position within the church. Arcana has Trailblazer accompany her as an escort, and Spooner joins at the last minute, wanting to look for an old friend who went missing in the city. On the outskirts of the city, the two assist a band of scavengers being attacked by local machines. After saving the scavengers, they tell them everything they know about the current state of Kowloong. Many still believe Villiers on the Niter was Chu, and that his death has left Kowloong without a leader. And since the battle against the Ascendants, the crew aboard the ship have taken control of the city's management and reconstruction. She asks them for any information on Pulao, and they point her to the dock, where she's most likely to find people with the information she wants. Within the city, a Babylonia congressman named Du Hang meets with Chao Fang over the political state of the two powers. Du Hang produces a file she acquired from her own secret sources, but what's most surprising is that the information originated from Kowloong, but the only people within the city are those few left in the Central Observatory. Even the real Chu vanished after the war and has yet to be seen since. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by a soldier from the docks, reporting that Hanying was taken into custody while trying to board the Niter. In the interrogation room, Chao Fang is surprised to see the infamous Hanying, the dancer who failed to assassinate Villiers, dying in the process. She tries to explain that the attempt 20 years ago was not of her own volition, and Chao Fang confirms as such. After the incident, the Kowloong crew launched an investigation, reporting the origin of the plot and Villiers' true death before the Niter's arrival in Kowloong. She says that she has returned to fulfill a promise to Yo-Yo, and is shocked to hear that little girl attained the rank and title of Pulao, and with that new influence, secretly removed Hanying from the ship. Also, she would not be discovered by its occupants. As for Pulao's current whereabouts, 4 days ago she led a team into the mountains to look for missing citizens, when suddenly all contact was cut, In the days following, Chao Feng tried to send out search parties, only to have them vanish as well. But he does mention that before she set out, she spoke to one of the people responsible for Hanying's loss of freedom, a hacker who calls himself Cradle. A soldier informs Chao Feng that the Cradle wants to speak with Pulao, seemingly unaware of her missing status, and in her place, Hanying makes the visit, wanting to follow any lead to find Pulao. On the bottom levels of the Niter, she meets the last remnant of those hackers who used her so long ago. Their organization was once paid to kill Chu, and in retribution, Villiers crushed them. The remnants of that group came back for revenge, and dragged both Hanying and Pulao into their scheme. He tells her to take her much-deserved revenge, but she didn't come to take his life, or even raise a single finger. She is done being a tool for murder. Instead, she will let him live, and spend the rest of his life here, alone in a cold, dark cell. She gets up to leave, and in respect for her new sense of self, he gives her the same coordinates he gave Pulao, their last active base, and the likeliest culprits behind the disappearances. On the deck, she and Chao Feng part ways, and she takes the chance to look at how her old home has changed in the past 20 years. She visits all her old favorite stalls, finding that the hands of time have not been kind, as many of the shopkeepers she once knew are long gone. She arrives at the old stage that was once her greatest comfort and her greatest source of pain, where the two sisters were meant to part ways, but neither had the strength to abandon the other. And in the end, she can't help but wonder, did she make the right choice? After leaving the Niter, she heads towards the city's limit, where she comes across a silvered-haired woman in a suit. She calls Hanying over, giving her 2 pieces of information on Chao Feng's behalf. First, just like what the hacker said earlier, the headquarters of Cradle exist in the mountains. Secondly is that they've come to possess a program that can manipulate lower-level machines. So while not a danger to constructs like Pulao, machines like the one that attacked her and Spooner earlier are vulnerable. With the information delivered, Du Hang brings up a personal request from Chao Feng. He wants her to rescue Pulao and bring her back to the city safely, an obvious instruction as far as Hanying is concerned. But Du Hang stresses that this is a request, not an order. And by this she means a request should come with a reward. So in exchange for Pulao's safe return, Chao Feng can offer Hanying full Kowloong citizenship. After meeting up with Spooner, the two make their way up the mountain, with the latter being shocked they could avoid the virus while being so close to the city, which at this point is little more than a viral no man's land. Spooner finds it quite odd that a group of tech-savvy hackers would be concealed in the mountains, but Hanying explains that's just how the people of Kowloong are. They prefer to stay in touch with the scenery and culture of ancient times. Often their hearts, and the emotions within, dictate their choices. Suddenly they hear the sound of a gong ring out throughout the canyon, and with it they are attacked by machines. Together the two fight through waves of machines, and as Spooner inspects them he finds they have all been recently modified. None of them possess higher functions, only transmitters for them to be controlled. Earlier, Hanying asked him if he hated humans, and seeing machines exploited like this fills him with rage. Every member of the church has their own story, and knowing any one of them could be killed at any moment, just like gear, they try to keep a professional distance. Spooner was once a cage fighter in an underground ring, where he was forced to kill machines and humans alike for the appeasement of his owners. He despises the idea of machines being treated as simple objects to be used, and gesturing to the remains scattered around him, most of humanity hasn't changed their stance. Hearing his story, Hanying responds in kind, telling him what happened after Villiers created her, how he refused to acknowledge her as anything more than Huashu's failed vessel, and how Pulao gave meaning to her existence, providing her with the motivation to find out what it means to have a heart. After a number of hours traveling up the mountain path, Spooner comes to the conclusion that they are going in circles, somehow unable to progress any further. While discussing how they should proceed, Spooner spots an old man walking down the path. They have not seen a single human the entire way up the mountain, but conveniently now someone appears right in front of them. It screams trap, but at the moment they are getting nowhere on their own, so they might as well try something different. Hanying calls out to the man, who calls himself Miku, and tells her how Cradle came to the mountain, taking over the temple at its peak, and since that time, everyone who called the mountain home has since vanished. He says he did see Pulao and her squad pass further up the mountain, but asks Hanying if Pulao is really who she came to find. Seeing her confused by his question, he reaches his hand behind a rock and grabs an apple, explaining to her the origin of the mountain's name. But the name of the mountain is of little importance, it's what's inside that truly matters. He presses the apple into Hanying's hand, and it rapidly grows into a full tree, only to wither and die within moments. The sheer impossibility of what she saw leads her to one conclusion, that they are in some type of illusion or imaginary dreamland. Miku confirms that this is all a result of Cradle's meddling, and with a little outside help, Pulau made her way up the mountain 3 days ago. They are currently stuck in Cradle's artificial reality overlapping with their own, and the key to progressing in this dreamland is themselves, and that the path forward is whatever path they decide will lead them to the top. They successfully make it further up the mountain, as the sound of the gong continues to get louder. Before they know it's happening, a strange voice chastises them for their slow ascent and offers to give them some help. Their bodies break down into data, and in the next moment they are pulled into their own separate dream space. Within it they live through the memories of their past, Hanying reliving her time on the Niter with Pulau, and Spooner seeing the day he escaped the fighting pit, aided by another mechanoid named Ulysses. After escaping their dreams, they find themselves even further up the mountain, and Spooner comes to the conclusion that his friend must also be somewhere on the mountain. Suddenly that same voice from before calls out to them, and the old man makes his presence known. He was the one responsible for putting them in those secondary dreams, yet claims not to control the entire virtual space. Knowing she won't get anything out of him, she asks if he knows Ulysses, and he claims he doesn't, but says that every answer waits for them at the top of the mountain. The gong sounds again, and they prepare for combat, when the old man hands Hanying the apple seed from earlier, and sends them on the final leg of their journey. Following his instructions, they reach the gate to the mountain's peak, and Hanying comes across a gruesome truth. The machines they destroyed on their journey contain the memory data of the kidnapped citizens. The machines within this dream are reflections of those on the outside, and by controlling those within the dream, Cradle can manipulate those in reality. Although just husks of their former selves, whispers of data, Hanying can't help but be overcome by a sense of self-loathing. Once again, she has been used as a tool to kill. But these people were not killed out of some plot. They chose to die, to have Hanying free them from their suffering. It would have been far crueler to have them live on under the delusion of false hope. That burden was simply too much for them to bear. She can't understand the logic behind this willingness to end their lives when there's a possibility of living on, even if it is in their current states. But the man doesn't expect her to understand. Humans themselves have trouble wrapping their heads around such things, so for a mechanoid it's all fine if it remains nothing but a mystery. Before she has time to process what is happening, the man reminds her that these people are not who she came to find. Pulau and the others were in the temple at the top of the mountain, and the old man pleads for one last favor, that even if she can't save Pulau, he begs that she pass through the gate, put an end to this dream, and free Fu Shen. Through the mountain pass, they come face to face with the gatekeeper, the one who guards the exit of this dreamland. Pulau is allowed to pass through the gate, unlike Hanying and Spooner, but thanks to the old man's gift, the apple seed that serves as the key, they are allowed entry. Eventually all dreams come to an end, and this one is no exception. They pass through the gate of the main hall and confront the mountain's eternal dreamer, Fu Shen.
The dance ends. The crane sings.
Today is your death day.
When the rain stops, wind will blow through the forest.
Fu Shen is defeated, and from the central hall the members of Cradle, all human, exit the hall and force him to reboot. Spooner blocks an incoming strike, and in that single moment Hanying thrusts her fan into his core. He thanks both Hanying and his old friend Spooner, admitting that he was that very same Ulysses from so long ago. With that, it's finally time to put an end to Cradle's experiment. Inside the main hall, she finds a life pod, and in it is a man Cradle modified into the central processor for all the data flowing in and out of that dream world. She keeps the man's final wish, pulling the plug, ending his life and the dream along with it. With the terminal shut down, Pulau wakes up and is reunited with Hanying. Slowly, the remaining members of her squad regain consciousness and arrest the surviving members of Cradle. Back in the city, Hanying and Pulau walk down the streets of their once bustling home, the lights and music giving way to Kowloong's true state. While the outside may be burned and broken, the memories they have of Kowloong and each other shine clearer and brighter within them.
Hanying! Look! From here, I think I can see the niter. I wonder if the shrimp dumplings there still taste as good as before.
Yo-Yo, there's something that I want to give you.
Huh?
This is your memory of the past, Kowloong, and your parents. I brought it back.
Let's leave it be.
Huh? Are you sure? But...
Of course I mean it. I think I've already found what I was seeking.
I see. Yo-Yo. No. Pulau.
Oh, those snacks look amazing! Hanying, over here!
Coming!
Back at the church, Arcana has allowed Hanying to stay in Kowloong, so she can both be their envoy in the city and help other mechanoids on the path to awakening. In the Niter prison, Cradle gets a surprising visitor, Yin, the eldest of the Kowloong royal siblings, Chu and Villier's older brother. Within that cell, he kills Cradle, and with his death, there's not a single living soul to link him with the assassination attempts on his siblings. After everything, Hanying looks out over Kowloong, holding a copper card in her hand. After returning to the church, she accepted Arcana's offer and joined the church as their 12th seat, the Hanged Man. At the end of her journey, she found Pulau, but more importantly, she found out who she is. She no longer questions herself or wonders what a heart is. The very fact she was capable of raising that question is in and of itself the answer. Meanwhile, Du Heng reaches the lower levels of Cradle's base and downloads all of the remaining research data. She is soon contacted by a mysterious stranger who tells her that Cradle is attempting to recreate Washu and Akasha, a statement she finds comical. This voice asks her if she has faith in Akasha, but she herself never believed in that plan and couldn't care less. The only benefit is the data Cradle collected that will serve as another card in her hand. Alright, thank you all for watching, and you have just finished The Floating Reverie. Gonna be honest, this was such a sleep chapter for me to get through. It was like chewing through a well done steak. It was just like, it didn't end. But you know, now we're finished. Chapter was really simple. Well, not worded simple. This thing was extremely convoluted for no reason, but all this dream within a dream, Inception stuff. But you know, it did its job. It introduced us to Hanying, who will become a little bit more important later. Introduced us to Du Heng, and at the end there, Du Heng was talking to her mysterious person who will become a bit more important later on in later chapters. Yeah, I mean, I guess other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about it right here. But in the video that accompanies this one, aha, hint hint, I'm joking, but same as before, right? Extended thoughts will be in the video that comes alongside this one. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next video where we jump back into the main story with chapter 24, Chaos Unsnarled.